Scythe Claw, the original showcase, is still the reigning champ on the channel, so let's return to it as the only weapon that I can use. And with the codicil that it's not quite as powerful as it was in its original incarnation. I think the damage was lowered, but more importantly the frenzy and adrenaline mutation were changed to not restore nearly as much health. Restoration based on the amount of damage you do gets real wacky when an ultra high damage weapon like this one was involved. The basics: very high damage, very high range for a melee weapon, very slow swing time, takes up 2 slots, and kind of finicky critical condition. Those last 2 downsides aren't all that bad. 2-slot thing obviously does not matter for this run. Criticals means that I need to alternate between the 2 claws to maximize my damage. Something to pay attention to, but hardly the most difficult to pull off. Orange Claw has good vertical reach, Blue Claw horizontal, and although the Blue Claw does more damage, you can't get that damage without alternating. The plan is going to be to use the Orange Claw for flying and low health enemies, and then alternating between the 2 for everything else. Combo is always going to start with the Orange Claw because it launches enemies up, usually interrupting their attack. This is not going to be a hard rule by any mean, but it's the strategy that I was using. I have gone to the sewers way too much lately. Nope. Nope. Arboretum it is. Around this time I decided that I'd be taking the bad seed route. It's thematically appropriate. I am not good at fighting Mama Tick, but that shouldn't matter during a survival run. Now, that last downside, the slowness of the weapon. I'm defining that as if an enemy starts an attack at the same time I start an attack, the enemy will connect first almost every time in the case of this weapon. Every survival weapon has super armor, like the kind you get in fighting games or Dark Souls or whatever. This means that Scythe Claws are uninterruptible, and the huge damage I take will be rallied up most of the time due to the immediate hit that I get afterwards. So often it'll look like I didn't take any damage at all. Regardless, it's still a little bit, it ruins the kill streak, and it is certainly a problem for curses. Took me a while to get into the mindset that I need to get behind every enemy to buy myself that little bit of extra time to get the swing out. Kept messing around with the lifesteal affix as well. Again, that 2 times damage over my head there, or non-existent head as it would be. It's a powerful affix when the difficulty where healing is at a premium. It's also not the best idea given everything else I said. Here we are. The curse. The first test of not getting hit in every single fight I come across. I need to remember that this weapon has range. And to use that range. This is also the point when I start exploiting enemies teleporting around to me. Nothing can attack immediately after teleporting, making it similar to trying to get behind them when I'm initiating a fight. Oh yes, I should also mention that I did get the kill rhythm mutation in this run. Increases attack speed if you're alternating weapons. This weapon being the most obvious use case for it. Honestly, I was not feeling that speed increase. Maybe it's because enemies already die so quickly to the claw, so I never have need to alternate most of the time. Maybe it's because I already have a strategy to deal with most of the fights. I still wanted to use it because I hardly ever do. Most survival builds I run are sword and board, so I'm not alternating weapons in a way that's usable by the mutation. Oh, as much as I'd like to, I'm going to the Morass. And why isn't the Morass incentivized? You'd think that would be the most incentivized out of any biome, really. Ooh, that was a rough tick fight. A fast foe, that one. Well, at least the blowgunners get killed by a single swipe of the Orange Claw, making one of the more annoying parts of the biome a little bit more manageable. You know, I gotta say, I am surprised at how well these single weapon runs are going. Starting out the series, I was expecting every one of these runs to take many, many tries. As it turns out, a lot of the main hand weapons can carry runs entirely on their own. My viewpoint may also be skewed by the amount of time I put in the game. Maybe. Just like a little bit. For the second tick, I made sure that I had the Blue Claw critical queued up, because that is what I call slicing, dicing, making julienne fries. That's an old reference to infomercials and the claims they would make. As a kid, I never knew what julienne fries were supposed to be, but they I guess they're supposed to be shoestring fries. You know, they're really super thin cut ones that you'd think you'd be using with a hash brown rather than calling them fries. But anyway, thanks to ancient pre-internet memes, I knew the name of them decades before I found out what they actually were, and now you do too. Oh, Mama Tick. I feel very confident in dodging most attacks from this boss. It's really just the phase change where you have the claws coming up from the ground in tune to the music. I don't know why, it's something about that. Utterly atrocious at dodging. I can get most of them, and it feels like, oh, I'm getting so close to getting to the end of this, and I haven't gotten hit once yet. There. That's how it feels like that happens every single time. Well, at least I'm not taking nearly as much damage as I was from the Tick mini-bosses in the last area. Not going to be too shot by that. Still, though, it took me a lot longer to get the perfect on this fight than... most of, maybe all of the other tier 1 bosses. I don't know. Oh, so close. I'm usually used to just using a shield against that attack more than anything else. I should really be using the range on this weapon more, I know, but I want to make sure every one of these attacks hits. Especially with kill rhythm, you know, that sort of thing. Try to... If I'm not really feeling the speed here, it's like I can at least still try to get the most out of it as possible, right? And then roll into that, trying to get that last little hit there, which wasn't even worth it. Jump, roll, as you do. And that'll do it. Could have been worse. Could have been better, but it could have been worse. Time to take the shrine off this fractured. Yeah. I did come here for the legendary version of the claws, but not because I want to use them right now. The affix is that it transforms it into a single-slotted weapon that automatically alternates. A powerful upgrade. Or is it? There is no downside for this weapon taking up 2 slots for me, and as you've already seen, using just the orange Scythe is effective for a lot of encounters with the big overhead arc and the faster swing. The only advantage in using this version, for me, personally, is that I can make sure that both claws have the same affixes. Normally they're treated as 2 different weapons with their own affix set, so while I'd like something like plus 40% on both sides, in reality that's pretty hard to get. I ended up trying to pick up every version of the weapon I found for that exact reason, just seeing if I could get the high damage affixes on the high damage claw and the utility affixes like poisons and whatnot on the other. Hence, I ended up sticking with the standard edition for the most part. The real reason I'm taking it will become apparent in the next area. Well, coming into the clock tower, it's clear that my plan completely failed. Porkapack is supposed to do a percentage of a backpacked weapon's damage to enemies you roll through, and it's not doing that. One-shotting enemies by rolling through them, even better if I got the hits cause poison clouds or something on it, would have been a great addition to the run. And I never mess around with Porkapack, so much like Kill Rhythm, this felt like a great opportunity, which I dropped to get this mutation, by the way. There was a chance that it might have even had the same range as the claws themselves, which would have been amazing. Ah well. The backpack mutations do have a lot of promise for future runs, giving the ability to enable synergies using rolls, but it just seems that it was not to be here. Probably something about it being a unique weapon, maybe something where it's just such an unusual circumstance that it didn't work. Who can possibly say? I guess, hey, it's pretty cool to see it in the backpack. That's a unique icon. You're not going to see it anywhere else, right? Nah, still. When it comes to tier 2 bosses, I was limited in my choices. Could have gone Scarecrow, but the Scarecrow has a much better scythe than I do. What with it being actually intended to be used by human hands, rather than tearing the arms off of a gigantic insect. Every time I would have hit that Scarecrow, it would have hit me 5 times, and I don't think even a survival run cannot stand up to that. Giant probably would have been a decent choice, but was just not possible on the route that I took. What can I say? I could not make that happen if I was going for that legendary weapon. Not that it really mattered anyway. No, so it had to be the Timekeeper. And It's not great. The teleportation and everything is... Well, the range on the weapon does kind of help with that, meaning that I can do stuff like dodging out of the melee attacks here and still manage to get some counterattacks in, but I got hit pretty hard over the course of this. A lot of that was due to my inability to dodge the golf swing, but I've been going the traditional end of the game for a while now, and I decided to change it up this time with Dracula. I would also like to go the queen route at some point, but that set of fights is just so difficult. I think the most difficult of any of the final bosses. And so is this area, because I died thanks to Dracula's shenanigans. You let your guard down for 1 second, I tell ya. Well, next attempt, I got this wacky set of claws and went sewers because of course I did. It's a good showcase of the difference in affixes you can get on a single weapon. Well, that's unfortunate. Good thing I got the bank to back me up. 2 bank runs in a row, who could have guessed? Much like the symmetrical lance run, if you can one-shot enemies, you won't have too difficult of a time. Additionally, the huge variety of enemies you encounter when hitting up the bank is alleviated by the large areas you have to fight them in. You don't have to, say, fight corpulent zombies in teeny tiny hallways like the Sepulchre, which really diminishes their ability to kill you. Okay, I can say whatever I want here, but the real message is that I'd rather do any biome, any other biome than a cursed one with a single weapon run. Dracula's Castle! Again! This time I took it a little bit slower, so as to not run into a huge group of enemies while Dracula hits me with vertigo. Did you know that in Castlevania lore, Dracula has dominion over every other creature in the castle and surrounding town, given the name? Meaning that every creature you fight in his castle is effectively an extension of himself. At least that's how I understood it in Aria of Sorrow, or maybe Portrait of Ruin. One of those two established that. The life and death of all creatures in the castle are subject to the whims of Dracula. That's also why they all die when he dies, I guess. Kinda reminds me of games like Menace or Abadox, The Deadly Inner War, where the villain is the entire planet itself and every individual foe is a parasite or part of the creature's body. It's weird that I can immediately name 2 games with that exact premise. Shoot 'em ups too, no less. 7 episodes in, let's fight a new final boss. Took kill rhythm in this fight, and I do not know why. Dracula teleports around a lot. It's rare for me to be able to get 2 hits in a row, much less a bunch of them. Especially when I need to be chasing him down all the time. And I was trying. You can see that I am taking a lot of damage here, just trying to get that combo off, and it's not rallying up nearly as much as I thought it would be. Now, what I should have been doing was either waiting for the melee combo that he does, where I can get a few hits in there, or at least definitely guarantee the critical hit, if nothing else. Or this attack with the bats, where if I got a little bit closer there, I would have been able to do at least a couple more hits. Well, it still worked out well enough. And really, I was mostly worried about this first phase than anything else. Because, yeah, I can get a good amount more use in the second phase with kill rhythm. Scythe Claws also has huge reach, and in the second phase, Dracula is much larger and able to be hit a lot more, so I just thought I'd have an easier time. Although I think I can usually end up dodging the attacks of the first phase a little bit better, not when I'm also trying to deal damage like that, too. So, here we go! And then, funny enough, for whatever reason, I just kept screwing up doing the combo. I don't know why. I guess I was focusing on dodging attacks, and then I did a bad job of that anyway, as you can see. It's kind of a mess, but at the same time, 3 potion charges here, and I was perfectly willing to use them because the damage is quite good. So, in spite of my, general hesitation for going to Dracula all this time, it really was not too bad of a fight. Although that might also be because I do have 34 survival. It was a pretty decent run. Yeah, well, come on. Look, I can really chunk down that health as long as I hit the combo. Tell ya. And you just keep mashing the orange Scythe instead. And then just getting caught immediately. Oh, it's just the worst of all worlds. Whatever my plan was, it wasn't working. Let's just go with that. And then I decided to just use the potion charges to make sure that I'm not about to be one-shot, or maybe take a big hit and then fall off the platform like I've already done 3 times. Which would be a pretty embarrassing end. I already had that sort of thing happen back in the bow and infinite arrows. I didn't need to have that happen here as well. But thankfully it didn't. Was able to fight him, and I think this means I should be going over to Dracula a little bit more. Not as bad of a fight as I thought it was going to be.